Good evening, Professor Woodborn. My name is Rashad Jefferson. I will be speaking on behalf of our group that includes Luciana, Alana, and Tila. I hope I pronounced everybody's name correctly. If I didn't, please forgive me. I'll be discussing key ideas from the video, along with a few key concepts from the book as well. One of the biggest themes that stood out across all of our discussion posts was how generations are shaped by more than just age. Things such as historical events, gender expectations, race, technology, all change and influence how people think, communicate, and experience life. Another major takeaway was how society's expectations for men and women evolved over time and how each generation developed its own identity. Let's get started. One topic that appeared consistently throughout our discussion posts was the evolution of gender roles across generations. Several group members pointed out how earlier generations portrayed men as providers, decision makers, and authority figures, while women were expected to focus on domestic responsibilities such as raising children, caregiving, or even marriage. The generations throughout history video clearly stated these differences. In older generations, women were portrayed as quiet, nurturing, and family-centered, while men were expected to appear strong, be emotionally aware, and provide financially. These expectations reflected the social norms at the time. However, as generations progressed, so did society. By the time the video came to the millennial and Gen Z sections, portrayals of men and women became a bit more balanced. Women were shown as confident and career driven, while men were shown more as emotionally expressive and were more involved in family life. One group mate also pointed out that social expectations for men evolved as well. Men today are often encouraged to participate more actively in parenting and in household responsibilities compared to earlier generations. This reflects a broader cultural change in how masculinity and family roles are understood. Another important point from the discussion is that even though society has made progress toward equality, some traditional gender expectations still remain. Stereotypes about how men and women should behave affect the workplace and even some relationships. Overall, the video highlighted how generations help reshape cultural expectations and redefine gender roles. Another major theme from our discussion post is the role that race and class play in shaping our generational identity. One important realization from the video and the book is that generations are not a one-size-fit-all type of category. Although people may belong to the same generation by their age, their experience can look completely different. For example, one classmate explained that wealthier families often had greater access to education, technology, and even career opportunities, which shaped their values and lifestyles differently than the working class family. Another group mate highlighted how racial discrimination and unequal treatment affected the experiences of many minority groups across generations. A powerful point that was made in our group discussion was that a black family's experience could be way different than a white family's experience based on social barriers and historical inequalities. That very perspective helps us to understand that generational identity cannot be viewed only through mainstream cultural trends. The video mainly focused on mainstream American culture, but not every community experienced those culture shifts equally. Minority communities and lower income families often face challenges that influence how they view work, education, family, and social progress. Several group mates also discuss how younger generations today are growing up in a society that is more open to conversations about diversity, inclusion, and inequality. Topics such as race and class are now openly discussed more in schools, social media, and the workplace than they were in previous generations. One group may even mention how education itself has changed. In the past, students may have focused more on historical facts, but now they analyze controversial social issues such as equality, identity, and inclusion. This reflects how generations continue to evolve. Ultimately, race and class shape experiences within every generation, making generational identity much more complex than just simple age. Another interesting takeaway from the video was the idea that every generation tends to be stereotyped in some way. For example, Gen X was sometimes portrayed as disconnected or skeptical, while millennials and Gen Zs were often described as highly connected through technology, socially aware, and less tied to traditional institutions such as marriage, religion, or political parties. One of the strongest points made in our group discussion post was that those three behaviors did not just develop randomly. They were shaped by historical environments that each generation experienced. Things such as wars, recessions, political division, and the rapid upbringing of technology all influence how generations think and behave. That idea is important because it reminds us that generations should not be judged on stereotypes. Instead, understanding the generation's experiences that shaped each generation can help create more empathy and better communication. One group may even noted that understanding generational differences can actually strengthen teamwork and leadership when approached with awareness and empathy. Rather than allowing those differences to create division, leaders can use those differences to improve collaboration and organizational culture. This idea connects directly to leadership development because effective leaders must understand people individually and rather than relying solely on their label or assumption. One of the biggest lessons from our discussion post is that generations are much more complex than age categories alone. Gender expectations have evolved increasingly over time. Race and class continue to shape opportunities and experiences. And every generation develops its identity based on the world it inherits. As society continues to change, understanding generational perspectives will become even more important in schools, workplace, and communities. Thank you.